Hi everyone, it's Mark from Lucidlift. One of the topics I get a lot of questions about is story point estimating and velocity. So I put together this quick video and I hope it's helpful. If you have any questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments, or as always, feel free to email me at mark@lucidlift.com. So what is a story point? It's basically a unit of measurement for software development and other similar types of work. You might ask, so don't story points just equate to time? Like, can I call a story point 1 hour or 1 day? And actually, story points are an attempt to separate the bigness of our work from the time it takes to do it. In software development and other white-collar work, we don't have a thing that we can measure, like miles or dollars or bricks. So if you're trying to measure your speed, your velocity, hours per hour or hours per day doesn't really make sense. So we need that unit of bigness, and that's the story point. So what is a story point actually? Story point sizing should take into account three things: effort, complexity, and uncertainty. And different levels of each of these things will make the overall story or project bigger or smaller. You can see here each of these three stories has different levels of effort, complexity, and uncertainty, causing their different sizes. And all three of the factors go into sizing our user stories. We typically use the Fibonacci series to size stories. If you're not familiar with Fibonacci, we start with 1 and 2, and then the following numbers are the sum of the previous two. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, and so on. I usually just go 1 through 13. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Fibonacci works really well for us because the numbers spread apart as they get bigger, and bigger estimates have a tendency to be less certain. If you want to, for our purposes today, you can just think of these numbers as extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and extra, extra large. So in our example, we might size our user stories here that we just that have different levels of effort and uncertainty and complexity. We might size them as 3, 5, and 8. Let's illustrate this with a very simple example. So imagine I have a pile of rocks in my backyard. You can see them back there. And I want to move them into my front yard so that I can have them hauled away. And I want to know how long it's going to take me. I want to know when I'm going to finish so I can schedule a pickup date. So I'm going to measure how much work I can get done each hour, and then I'm going to use my hourly velocity to estimate when I'll be finished. Now there are various sizes and shapes of rocks. Some of them are really small and very, very easy to carry. Some of them are jagged and sharp, and I might need to wear gloves or something to handle them. And some of them are really, really heavy. And then still others might be partially buried. So I've got a lot of uncertainty. I don't know exactly what I'm dealing with. And then there might be some that are so big that I know I can't move them in an hour. It'll take me much more than an hour to move. So I'm going to break them up into smaller pieces before I even try to move them. I'm going to call the smallest and easiest rock in the pile a 1. And then I'm going to look for the biggest rock that I think I can handle in an hour. And I'm going to call that one a 13. And then I'm going to take all the other rocks and I'm going to put them into one of 6 categories: 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, or 13, my Fibonacci numbers. I could just count the rocks and measure how many I move each hour. But since I know some will be bigger and harder to move than others, I decided to estimate them using rock points. Now, as I move the rocks, I can measure the number of rock points that I'm moving in each hour. So let's just say in the first hour I move 9 rock points. That could be 9 small number 1s, or it could be 3 medium-sized number 3s. And let's say in the next hour I move 11 more rock points. And in the third hour I move 9 again. So at this point, I'm going to estimate that my velocity is about 10 rock points per hour. So now I can do some forecasting. If my pile, for example, has a total of about 1,000 rock points, I know that it's going to take me about 100 hours to move the whole pile. So if I wanted to work 10 hours a day, don't know if I do want to work 10 hours a day, but if I did, I could estimate that it's going to take me about 10 days to move the entire pile. If I wanted to go faster, I can find ways to increase my velocity, right? So I might ask my neighbor to help me out, or I might add a tool like a wheelbarrow. And each time I make the change, I'll have to reestablish my velocity. I'm going to be going faster as I find ways to do things more effectively. One important note, though, and this is really critical to story point estimating, is that when I increase my speed, my velocity, when I add an additional person to help, a new team member, or I add a new tool, it doesn't change the size of the pile. It only changes how fast I can move the pile. We can apply this same simple system for splitting up and sizing our user stories. And since this method is based on observational data and experience with a team, the velocity of the team, it works a lot better than other estimating methods that are time-based. And once you get the hang of it, it's fast and it's easy, and it might even be fun. One more quick note on story point estimating. If at all possible, you're going to want to include your entire team in the estimating process. That way you'll get everyone's perspective and you'll end up with better estimates, and you will also get everyone's buy-in. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave a note, or as always, feel free to email me at mark@lucidlift.com. And if you do need help with estimating, story breakdown, or anything else Agile related, we at Lucid Lift would love to help you get your team to the next level. So drop us a note. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you all soon.